Good morning, friends. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Medical Classes by Dr. Srinidhi Kumar K. And please don't forget to subscribe my channel, and also please give your valuable comments. So as we know, in the last class we are discussing about ataxia, and we have seen up to synergia, one of the function of the cerebellum. So that is maintenance of the synergia, and when it is lost, it is called as a dysynergia. Okay, so now coming back to the other important functions of the cerebellum in the trunk actually. Okay, now in the trunk, so if the cerebellum is affected, then we will have truncal ataxia, trunk portion. So ataxia is nothing but inability to maintain the coordination and the balance, and loss of balance in the trunk area can occur because of the multiple things. Okay, so now first we will see what is balance. So balance is nothing but awareness between you and the environment. Okay, so when you are moving in the environment, so the awareness between you and the environment, that itself is called as balance, isn't it? You are changing yourself according to the environmental. Okay, if there's ups and downs, you are changing your posture. Okay, anyway, so and your ability to make the correction either in your position or in the environmental positioning, so that is called as balance. Suppose if you are walking on the flat ground, suppose we need to know our position of the knee, hip, lifting of the leg, etc., isn't it? Suppose if I am walking on the flat ground, now I should know how much I have to lift the knee, how much I have to lift the hip joint, how much I have to lift the ankle joint. Although we are not aware, our cerebellum and cerebrum is aware of it, and it is automatically doing it. So when we are traveling in the boat, suppose sometime, so initially we fail to adjust ourselves, isn't it? So as the boat is swaying, or if the ground is moving, we are not able to maintain the balance, because therefore I'm calling this is awareness between you and the environment. Okay, so to maintain the balance, we need to know where your joints are, how they are placed during each and every movement, etc. And this particular thing, okay, the joint sense, position sense, tendon sense, what we say, position sense, joint sense, this is called as proprioceptive movements. Okay, this is called as proprioceptive movements. This is one of the very important sensory input which is taken by the cerebellum and processed. Okay, and once this particular proprioceptive receptors are not perceived by the cerebellum properly, then even the cerebellum is not in a position to give the correct real-time data to the cerebrum, and there will be a loss of balance. So these are carried to the cerebrum through the posterior column tracts. I think you may be knowing dorsal columns, tracts of cuneatus, and as well as a tract of gracilis. Okay, so tract of the gracilis carries the position of sense, position, joint sense, etc. From the lower part of the body, and tracts of cuneatus, it takes it from upper parts of the body. And when these two tracts are get affected, these are the sensory ascending sensory tracts. When these two tracts are get affected, now cerebellum is not getting the real-time data in time. Okay, or it is getting a wrong real-time data. So same will be fed to the cerebrum also, and now cerebrum is not able to give the appropriate movement according to the real-time data. So this leads to ataxia. There will be disbalance, and this type of ataxia is called as a sensory ataxia. This type of ataxia is called as sensory ataxia. Now, sometimes the truncal ataxia will be there. Only in the trunk portion there will be axial and truncal portion. Okay, so these two are the base. Okay, these are actually the primitive movements. Even if you look into the primitive organisms also, how they move. For example, the earthworm and all. So they move by the truncal movement, isn't it? Truncal and axial movement is very important. And same type of truncal and axial movements are also present in the human beings. So when we have problem in maintaining the balance in the trunk area or axial area, that means the midline of the body. Okay, we are having the problem. So that suggests that this particular primitive the sense of sensation, sensory sense has been gone, and usually we'll call it as truncal ataxia. Okay, so the truncal movements and axial movement, this is maintained by the vermis portion of the vermis portion of the cerebellum. In the cerebellum, two portions are there. One is vermis and another one is cerebral hemispheres. Okay, these sensory inputs and all, it actually goes to the cerebral hemisphere. But truncal area, the primitive sensations, so that will be received by the vermis, and there is another lobe is called as flocculonodular lobe. So these two lobes will go into do this function anyway. So this is called as sensory ataxia. That means when you are not getting the real time data regarding the joint sense, position sense and movement sense, okay, to the cerebellum. Cerebellum is not able to maintain the balance, as it is not able to give the right data to the cerebrum, and this is called as sensory ataxia. So this is one of the very important thing that we have to differentiate from the cerebellar ataxias and sensory ataxias. Okay, now we shall see further. So another is, suppose if our sensory component is normal. Now we have to understand, suppose patient is having ataxia, but we have examined his sensory inputs, ascending these tracts. Okay, spinocerebellar tracts are also there, anterior and posterior spinocerebellar tracts are there, proprioceptive movements are there. So different ascending sensory tracts are there. Now all the tracts are normal, suppose. Okay, and these sensations are properly carried through the cerebellum. From the cerebellum it is going to the brainstem, and from the brainstem it is going to the cerebrum, which contains a nucleus called as vestibular nucleus. Anyway, we know that. So these sensations are carried properly to the brainstem, and in the brainstem actually there is a nucleus which is called as vestibular nucleus, isn't it? So cochleovestibular nerve, and for that vestibular nerve we have got a vestibular nucleus. Now this nucleus has got connection from the ear also. Now this nucleus is very important, vestibular nucleus. This nucleus has got connection from the ear. Okay, this nucleus has got one connection from the cerebellum, and this nucleus has got one connection from the proprioceptive tracts, and this nucleus also has got one connection from the visual area. Now this is actually junction point. So vestibular nucleus, okay, plays a very important role in the maintaining the balance, because there are four connections are there for the vestibular nucleus. This vestibular nucleus receive one connection from the ear, utricle and saccule. Okay, from there, so it receives one nerves. Then from the cerebellum, the inputs are going to the vestibular nucleus, and from the sensory proprioceptive receptor tract of cuneatus, tract of gracilis, from there also the inputs are given to the vestibular nucleus, and also from the visual area the inputs are given to the vestibular nucleus. This nucleus is present where? It is present in the brainstem or midbrain area. Okay, so in this case, patient get a sensation of giddiness or spinning or movement of the imbalance. Now if there is a problem in this vestibular area, okay, vestibular area, if there is a problem, now patient will have giddiness, because see, vestibular area is an area where the different things which is needed to maintain the balance, they are coming in a junction, just like a railway junction. Okay, from the different areas the tracks are coming and joining there. Okay, so from one is coming from the ear, one is coming from the cerebellum, one is coming from the visual area, and one is coming from the auditory area. Okay, so like this, proprioceptive areas. Now in this case, if it is get affected, if this vestibular nucleus is get affected by one or the other reason, for one or other reason, so then you will have giddiness, or you will have spinning type of movement, and also we will have imbalance. Okay, also we will have imbalance. So this is called as vestibular ataxias. This is called as vestibular ataxias. Now finally, if vestibular system is also normal, okay, sensory tracts are normal, cerebellum is normal, and vestibular system is also normal. Now there may be also some problem in the cerebellum. Okay, suppose the sensory tracts are normal, vestibular system is normal, ear connections are normal. Now when sensory input is normal, vestibule is also normal. Now if the motor outflow of the cerebellum is problematic, although everything is normal. Now I will make you understand a bit clearly. See, actually when we talk about cerebellum, in the cerebellum actually things are going and coming out. Okay, so output is there, input is there, so many sensations and all these things. So once they go through the cerebellum and then they go out. Okay, because cerebellum has to give real-time continuous data to the cerebrum. Therefore, everything has to pass through there. Okay, all the even the motor tracks are also coming through the cerebellum, and sensory tracks are also going through the cerebellum because it has to give the real-time data. So now what is telling in this particular slide is, what we are telling is, the input which is given to the cerebellum is normal. No, the portion of the cerebellum which receives the input of these different sensations, proprioceptive and dorsal root, different sensation, everything is normal. But there is some problem when these particular inputs are going out. Now it has to enter the cerebellum. From the cerebellum it has to go out. After going out, it has to get into the vestibular system, then into the midbrain, then into the cerebrum. So this is a way that it has to go. Now what they are telling is, when they are just going out, there is some problem, maybe some obstruction, compression, etc. Okay, so now if this problem is there, then also there will be ataxia, and this particular ataxia is called as a cerebellar outflow ataxia. Cerebellar outflow, not inflow ataxia, outflow ataxia. So if the vermis of the cerebellum is affected, I told cerebellum, it contains anterior lobe, posterior lobe, and flocculonodular lobe. In between there is a portion called as vermis. This vermis actually maintains the middle portion of the body. It is present even in the cerebellum, also it is present in the middle. It also maintains the balance of the mid portion of the body. So if this particular vermis is get affected, then we will have truncal ataxia. We have already told. Then we will have truncal ataxia. So now we have we can have the lower limb ataxia, and we can also have the hypertonia of the limbs, and we will have although pendular knee jerk. Now when there is truncal ataxia is there, okay, so when there is a truncal ataxia is there, so there may be hypertonia of the muscles. Okay, meantime we have pendular knee jerk. Suppose a patient is having lower limb ataxia. Lower limb ataxia suggests that it is nothing but sensory ataxia, and also truncal ataxia is also there. Suppose if it is there, lower limb ataxia means which portion of the cerebellum is get affected? Hemispheric portion. Okay, hemispheric portion is get affected. Truncal ataxia means vermis is get affected. Now if there is any lower limb ataxia, in the meantime the limbs will also have hypotonia. Hypotonia will be there. Tone will not be maintained, because maintenance of the tone is also one of the function of the cerebellum, or this sensor, because these continuous inputs which is given, position of sense, position of joint, etc., from the cerebellum to the cerebrum, it also helps to maintain the tone of the muscle also. Okay, so if this is not done properly, the tone of the muscle is also get affected. So limbs will have hypotonia, and we will have pendular knee jerk. So when the pendular knee jerk is there, usually in case of ataxia we will get it. Okay, so that suggests that it's a lower limb sensory ataxia. So with this we conclude for today. In the next class again we will meet with some other aspects. Thank you very much.